Did you know the United States once gave over $400 million a year to the World Health Organization, but then walked away? What made President Trump decide to cut ties with the very group responsible for fighting global pandemics? This move shocked the world and raised one big question. What does this mean for America's health and safety? In this video, we'll uncover the real reasons behind this bold decision, what it cost us, and how it could shape our future. Stick around because the answers might surprise you.
What is this? Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, sir?
Ooh, that's a big one. So we paid $500 million to World Health when I was here, and I terminated it. China with 1.4 billion people. China pays 39 million, and we pay 500 million. It seemed a little unfair to me.
The United States has always been a major player on the global stage, and its relationship with the World Health Organization has been no different. For decades, the U.S. was not just a member, it was the largest contributor, providing over $400 million annually to support global health initiatives. But this partnership wasn't without its bumps along the way. Founded in 1948, the WHO was created to combat worldwide health crises, from smallpox eradication to tackling pandemics like SARS and Ebola. The United States, as a founding member, played a crucial role, offering both financial and strategic support. For years, this collaboration symbolized the U.S.'s commitment to global health. Fast forward to recent years, and the U.S. became the backbone of the WHO's funding. Nearly 15% of the WHO's annual budget came from American taxpayers, fueling critical programs that saved lives across the globe. From disease control in Africa to nutrition programs in Asia, U.S. dollars touched every corner of the world. But as the WHO expanded its influence, cracks began to form. Critics in the U.S. argued that the organization was slow to respond to emergencies, overly bureaucratic, and, worst of all, biased towards certain nations. One particular claim caught the spotlight. Was the WHO too cozy with China? When COVID-19 hit, these questions turned into accusations. The Trump administration pointed fingers, blaming the WHO for failing to hold China accountable during the critical early days of the outbreak. Trust had eroded, and the partnership that once stood strong was now hanging by a thread. How did a decades-long collaboration between the world's largest economy and the leading global health organization unravel so quickly? And what does this tell us about the future of America's role in global health? To understand that, we have to dig deeper into the reasons behind this monumental decision. On July 6, 2020, the Trump administration announced its decision to leave the World Health Organization, citing a lack of accountability and urgent need for reform. President Trump claimed the WHO had failed its mission during the COVID-19 pandemic, accusing it of siding with China rather than being transparent with the world. But was this the whole story? For years, the U.S. was the WHO's largest financial contributor, pouring in over $400 million annually, far more than any other country. Yet many in the administration felt the U.S. wasn't getting its fair share of influence or results. They argued that the organization often prioritized the agendas of other nations while relying heavily on American funding. Was the WHO really delivering the value it promised? Beyond the public statements, this decision also had political undertones. With America First policies at the heart of Trump's administration, pulling out of the WHO sent a powerful message. The U.S. would no longer tolerate international organizations it deemed inefficient or unaccountable. But critics argued that this move was more about politics than policy, raising fears of losing America's global leadership. The U.S. withdrawal sent shockwaves around the world. The World Health Organization, already under pressure from a global pandemic, suddenly faced a massive funding gap. Critical programs, from vaccine rollouts in developing nations to disease control initiatives, were thrown into uncertainty. Would the world's most vulnerable now pay the price? With $400 million stripped from its budget, the WHO struggled to maintain its operations. Programs for malaria prevention, maternal health, and clean water initiatives in underdeveloped countries saw immediate disruptions. And for nations dependent on WHO support, the future became alarmingly unclear. Back home, the decision raised serious concerns. Without direct involvement in the WHO, the U.S. risked losing access to critical global health data and early warnings about emerging diseases. Critics warned this could make the country more vulnerable to future pandemics. But to supporters, this was a necessary step to prioritize American interests. The divide between opinions grew wider. As the world grappled with a raging pandemic, many wondered, could global health survive without U.S. leadership? The stakes were higher than ever, and the decision to leave the WHO was about to redefine America's role in international health forever. The U.S. departure from the WHO created a vacuum in global health leadership. Other nations like China quickly stepped in to fill the gap, increasing their influence on international health policy. This raised a critical question. Had the U.S. unintentionally shifted power dynamics in favor of its biggest geopolitical rival? Without a seat at the table, America's ability to shape global health responses was significantly weakened. Experts warned that future pandemics could hit harder without access to WHO-coordinated research, vaccine distribution networks, and real-time disease tracking. Was this a gamble the U.S. could afford to take? Supporters of the withdrawal argued it was time for the U.S. to focus on self-reliance, building its own health infrastructure instead of funding international organizations. But critics countered that no nation, even one as powerful as the U.S., could tackle global health crises alone. The debate remains fierce. Is this the start of a new era of independence or a dangerous step toward isolation? In the end, the U.S. withdrawal wasn't just about one country leaving an organization. It became a cautionary tale about the delicate balance between national interests and global collaboration. The world would have to learn whether it could adapt or whether the loss of U.S. leadership would leave lasting scars. Calls to rejoin the WHO grew louder. Health experts, policymakers, and international allies stressed the importance of U.S. involvement in global health initiatives, especially as new health threats continued to emerge. Would the U.S. reverse course? Meanwhile, discussions about reforming the WHO gained momentum. Even those who supported the withdrawal acknowledged the need for a more transparent, accountable, and efficient organization. But could these changes happen without the U.S. at the table? Ultimately, the U.S. withdrawal from the WHO left an indelible mark on global health and politics. The move raised questions that still linger today. Can global health thrive without U.S. leadership? And what lessons can be learned from this bold yet controversial decision? The answers will shape the future of international cooperation. America's absence from the WHO during critical moments demonstrated the risks of isolation. While the U.S. aimed to bolster self-reliance, the global nature of health crises proved that no country could tackle them alone. The decision reshaped debates on balancing national interests with global responsibilities. As the world continues to face mounting health challenges, from climate-related diseases to emerging pandemics, the lessons from this decision remain more relevant than ever. Will the U.S. re-engage and reclaim its role as a global health leader? Or will new players permanently reshape the landscape? The road ahead is uncertain, but one thing is clear. Global health has forever changed.
We all salute the same great American flag. Our best days are yet to come. Together, we will make America great again.